everyone, and welcome back to Twitch Tales Cartographer campaign. This is episode 2 of the mini-series, which should be about 12 episodes long. What happened in the last episode? Well, why don't we recap? Manoki and Maya, I'm writing to you to tell you how my trip has been so far. I arrived at the island of Lorenzell with no problems, made my way to the town on the west coast called Zwiden, and from there I mounted a boat to head across, a ferry that took me across to Drennsall. While I was on the boat, it was a reminder to me that the last time that I was on this boat, on a boat like this, I'm not sure if you're even old enough to remember it, but it was the day that we left Ralatea. The day that we had to be evacuated. I don't mind telling you that I felt a little queasy with that memory coming back. It was obviously not a very nice time for us. I remember the fresh blood and the dirt. I remember Draconi coming to Peapa and not knowing if they were there to attack or why they were there, just knowing that everybody was scared. I remember holding your hand, Manaki, and I remember that Ngairi was holding Maya. I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but that was the day that we saw the Mokonui. It was the largest one I'd ever seen, and it was being ridden by some sort of humanoids. And then the next thing I know was when we were on the boat. Anyway, the trip ended up not being too bad after that. I met a man called Simon, a human man. He was very nice, even though I did vomit in front of him. We talked for a while and he told me a little bit about Drennsall. He's been here a few times, eh? It seems like he's a trader. Works with wood. When we got into port, he even bought me some fish for lunch. Real nice guy. Then we got a cab to Portsend, and that's where I am now. I'm in the Guild Hall, the Artisanal Alliance Guild Hall. I said goodbye to Simon, and I met a lovely couple of people who work for the Brush and Quill, the guild that I'm part of. The receptionist, Janice, lovely woman, great fashion sense, and the head of the Guild Hall, Randy. He's a hobbit man and very passionate about what he does. The most exciting thing that happened to me today, though, is the map that was hanging over the exit to the Guild Hall. It was enormous, at least 20 foot wide, and it seemed to map the entirety of the island. And that is where we're picking up today. So as you look up at this gigantic map of Drennsall and the western coast of Lorenzell, you ask, that's beautiful. Who made that? And he says, mostly Mildred. And he points across to the closest office off to your left in this guild hall. And you see the name above the door in this beautifully calligraphy sign right above the door is Mildred Lumen. Mildred was the one who did most of that. She commissioned it. The king commissioned it. And then she was the one who took that commission, and she took her best part of 3 years to complete. And she had a lot of help to come in and, had to buy maps from all over the place, to travel all over Drennsall to get all the cartographers. There's a beautiful, wonderful cartographer, Wally, who lives in Lake Town. He helped us with some of it. And then we got some people in Lorenzell. Zwiden has some, you can see Zwiden there on the map. He helped, there's some cartographers over there that helped us as well. Just sort of reached out to a whole bunch of Brush and Quill. Craftsmanship's extraordinary, eh? Yeah, I should think so. If you've got people who can do that, why do you need me? Well, Mildred, you in? He walks over and knocks on the door. What is it? There's the cartographer I was telling you about is here. Just thought you might want to say hi. The door opens. You see coming out of Mildred's office another hobbit, a female presenting hobbit, late 30s equivalent in development. Quite pale skin, and she's wearing huge jam-jar bottom glasses on. Like, makes her look like almost like an insect with these massive, like very magnified eyes behind these glasses. She's quite attractive, has a relatively plain fashion sense though. Doesn't particularly care what she looks like, and doesn't really take care of her hair or appearance so much. And he goes, Mildred, this is Nifa, or Noodle, what was that? Yeah, and you go out to shake Mildred's hand, and she just looks at you and just shuns your hand. Is that all you wanted then? Can I get back to my work now? Yeah, sure. Just thought you might want to make introductions. Yeah, and then closes the door. You get the impression she's not the friendliest of people. As she's closing the door. I'm a fan of your work. I'm glad to see. He turns around and says, "Well, let's talk in my office, shall we?" He walks you down to the furthest one on the right-hand side, and you see above the door Randy Crocker. I think his name is Randy Crocker. Randy Crocker. You walk in, you stoop below the door. It's an even shorter door, this one. It's not, it's not a 4-foot door for him. It's still large enough for a human to pass through without stooping, but you definitely need to stoop to get in. He goes, "Sorry about Mildred. She, the reason that I had to put the call out for other folk is that ever since Mildred's eyes went, they've been getting worse and worse over the years, and she's doing a lot of close-up work. She's still great over short distances. She can see maps fine, and she's got, eye for detail is, there's no one better. But she's not exactly in her adventuring days anymore. Getting out and about and actually hitting the land into the uncharted territory, shall we say, it's not really her thing. And you see, we had someone else. Jason worked with us as well. Maybe still works with us, hard to say, but he went off to map the Drennsall a few months back and never came back. So we needed to start putting the feelers out for people that weren't already part of this guild. Because yes, that map's beautiful, but if you take a look as you head back out again, if you take a look, you'll see that there are areas on it that are a little devoid of detail. Sure, we've got the map of the map of Portsend, we've got Wendraven, we've got the cities fleshed out. We know what the paths between here and Fenshaw look like. Even the path up to Whitecraft's well and truly mapped at this point. But the Drennsall, not so much, and the Drenwheel Ranges, not so much as well. So you need someone better prepared to go out into the world. I put out the feelers. I spoke to my friend Expression. Known her for a few years now. How do you know Expression? I went on an excursion back in my day. I was a bit of a cartographer as well. I'm more into limner these days and sign painting and things. But but yeah, I was a bit of a cartographer in my youth, and I travelled all over. I ended up in Ranajay at one point, and I met Expression through that. All right. Yeah, I put out the feelers. Expression got back to me, said that she had a wonderful upcoming journeyman, and gave me your name. And I said, absolutely, I've got it in the budget to pay you to come across. So I was the one who paid for the teleportation and the subsequent ferry. I'm doing it out of the grant that the king gave us. I don't exactly know why the king's commissioning this, but the king has decided that it's time for us to map out the Drennsall. And who am I to say no? Where did Jason go? He went into the Drennsall. Yeah, it was before winter, so what's that? Probably 4 months ago now, maybe 5. I can get you the details, but yeah, Jason, he went north and never came back. Are these dangerous territories then? Oh, they can be. Yeah, anything uncharted in these terrains can be. I mean, the swamp animals and things. Yeah, I'd expect some sort of dangers. Oh, sounds intriguing. Can't wait to begin work. We'll make sure the areas won't be uncharted much longer. That's the spirit. That's what I like to hear. Is there danger pay, I wonder? Yeah, there's pay for it. So a job like this, we've managed to budget for, well, it's a lump sum, depending on, so the sooner you get it done, the more pay there is in it. But you'll be getting 10 gold for sort of an initial scout and going around doing the details and things. And then there's obviously the commission of the map itself. And if you want to maintain ownership of the map, obviously, well, I'm speaking to someone who knows, obviously, you're familiar with how the guild operates. And as players, maybe not familiar with how the guild operates. Basically, if you want to retain ownership of the map, you can retain rights over how many times it's copied and sold and distributed around the world. And every time somebody uses your map, you get money for it. Otherwise, you can just sell it to the guild proper. The guild get the residuals, as it were, as it's being copied and sold. But you get just like a huge lump sum for just selling the map, depending on how good it is. So you've got options for the map itself, but he's saying you get 10 gold just for like doing the scout, and then actually making the map is additional. Was Jason a seasoned cartographer? I mean, he wasn't our best. I don't want to speak ill of the dead. Well, I don't even know if he's dead. I don't want to speak ill of him. He was a lovely guy. He wasn't our best cartographer. Wasn't the most. He was sort of like a jack of all trades within this guild. He was a very skilled calligrapher, sign writer. Kind of did a bit of all, and he could draw a map, but the scale was always a little bit off with him. But at least he could see. I don't mean that as an insult, and he's sort of like backtracking over insulting that Mildred's eyes aren't so good. Has there been more trading or traffic in the area that might cause the king to fund map in the region? Oh, there's very little in the way of trading. No, there is a elven village up in the swamp somewhere in the South Drennsall. Up in the South Drennsall, there's a elven village. They're a couple of years ago, they went. There was a diplomatic mission to them. I know that a doddery old elf came through and wanted to set up connections with Portsend in case we could get some sort of diplomacy happening, any sort of trade between us, but the mission didn't go so well. They didn't manage. Thankfully, we didn't get to, fighting with them. The doddery old elf that went out there did a good enough job of talking, I suppose, and of course his bodyguard wasn't to be messed with. Tall human fellow with blue hair. Very strange and intimidating fellow to look at. I didn't really get to know him too well, but they made sure that the diplomacy stood, but I just don't think the elves were interested in trading with humans, so nothing really was established. So is that area is the priority, the South Drennsall? Yeah, that's the area the king's most interested in mapping. I know that he also is potentially giving us more grants in the future if this one goes well. If we map the Drennsall, I know he's got interest in more grants in the future, especially for the Drenwheel Rangers, but we're talking real dangers up there. Is this, what sort of a quality would you think of this? This is just a sketch, of course. I just did it on my way in, on the boat, saw the coastline and things, and you unfurl the thing as you're talking and show him. And he goes, oh, and this is just a sketch, you see. And you got a 23 or 24 on that, I think, from memory. That's impressive for a sketch. Yeah, very good work. We need to get you some pencils, of course. You're using ink when you should be doing the pencil sketchings, I guess. You say, yeah, I had some, but lost them on the transport. I think one of my bags didn't make it through the teleport or something, or maybe it was taken once I got to my. I don't know. It was weird. I have not teleported much, so I was kind of I felt a little bit weird after the teleport, and I think maybe I wasn't paying attention, and maybe I didn't grab my bag. I lost some of my pencils and things. He goes, Oh, that's no problem. Part of the commission is that the grant's enough for me to hand you some stuff. Let me get you some materials together. And he heads out of the office. He goes, "Come with me." And he heads out of the office. You use the opportunity to look up to the map again, and sure enough, you can see that in that region on the eastern side of Drenwell, it's a little bit underdeveloped on the map. And to that end, let me show you a very rudimentary first take on Incarnate of the map of Drenwell. Don't judge it too harshly, I have not nowhere near completed it yet, but this is the island that you are now on. You have come into the eastern side to this town here, Portsend. You started off on the coast in Dalen and you travelled to Portsend. From here, as Simon mentioned, if you head south along a map here, along a road here, it'll take you round the southern tip of the Drenwell Ranges. It's about a 2-day journey, but eventually you get to the capital, Wendraven. However, if you alternately follow the river that goes inland, there is a path that is a much more dangerous journey because it heads through the mountains, but it is a path that is more direct towards a crossover town called Holdover. And then either way from there, if you head north, you can head up past a dormant volcano, a massive lake, to the city of Staunton, or Staunton, sorry. Staunton's it's a suburb up in the mountains. And Staunton is the dwarven city that has been sort of half and half human now. And he said from there, if you go north, Simon didn't give you the name, but you can see that on the detail of the map as you walk past, you're sort of tracing the outline that Simon was telling you. You see there is a village here called Woodfield. And then further round there is a town called Lake Town, which I just now realised I've put on the wrong side of the lake. That should be on this side of the lake, which means that I need to shift this over and fix that up a little bit. Oh well. This one needs to shift as well. There you go. So there's Lake Town there, and then a city over here called Fenshaw that is a port city. And finally, the only other city that you see on here, there's a town that's labelled on the map called Jolen. And then further down from there is a city called Whitecraft that's all the way up in the corner of the island. Whitecraft is a tax haven where the uber wealthy live. And then just for your sake as well, just for the people watching who have seen the Twitch Tales campaign with the B team, with Apis and Mel and such, the area that Apis popped into, not that they necessarily knew it, was this area right here. So all of the Apis' story with Seed and the village of the Drenvale village and such, that all took place around this area. So, far from finished, this map, but this is essentially what you're looking at. Sorry to those listening on podcast. Where are the marshlands? The marshlands from where you are right now. Oops, wrong thing, moving the wrong thing. The marshlands from where you are, this is the Drennsall. The Drennsall is this huge swamp area, swampy marshland, and the South Drennsall is this area here. So basically just north of where you are, the Drennsall. And it has not been very well mapped. Basically speaking, as you look at the map, the most lacking areas, the lacking in detail, is all of the Drennsall here, both South and North Drennsall, and then all of the North Drenlark. The Drenlark is this forest here, and it is a magical forest that is basically untouched by humans. It's very difficult to get to because the island is split by this enormous channel, this huge, like, mile-wide river. And it's a very magically enchanted forest. The logging camp that Simon said he worked for is called Benlet, and it's right up here in this little corner here. And the logging camp is mostly responsible for why all of the Drennsall, the South Drenlark, has pretty much been deforested. Most of this forest was taken down because of the logging camp of Benlet. What mapmaker is that? It's a program called Incarnate. The current campaign is after the events of the B team campaign up to where we're at the moment, but not by much. So you took a glance up at the map, as Randy leads you across from his office, sort of corner-wise to the office that's next to Mildred's office. And you see that it is supplies and stationery, it says above the on the sign above that door. He leads you into that room, and you can see that it's just like a stationery storage closet sort of a room. Lots of shelving stacked up. And he wanders over, starts to collect some papers, places them into a tube, a watertight tube, and he's muttering to himself, almost like doing a inventory checklist for himself. Well, of course, you're going to need some parchment. There you are, and you've got some of that, and you're going to need it in a watertight tube in case you fall into the swamps, and you need that to be watertight. You're going to need an Inkfinity, and he picks up a little pottle of ink. And he goes, this is, you don't want to lose this. This is an item called Inkfinity. It's just a very simple enchantment that basically the ink in here will stay topped up during the day because it's using, and he walks around the shelving. He says, if you look this way, look, and he points towards the back hall of this, back room of this hall, and there is just like a huge vat, probably about 7 feet tall, about 4 feet diameter vat, and it's just like about half filled with ink. It's a very, very dark ink stained interior to this glass vial. He goes, there's a big old vat of ink here that we are working our way through. This is a bottle of Inkfinity, and basically if you open it up and tip it out, it won't refill like straight away. But if you close it up and wait a moment or two, it should refill over time. Try not to waste it. We do tend to try and keep a track of how much ink we have at any one time. If it feels like it's going down a little bit too soon, maybe we'll have to do some auditing of how much people are using it. But it should last you. In a similar way, I have one here. Where are they? And he walks over and gets some pencils out. And he gives you a couple of graphite pencils and a sharpener. He says, if you take some of these pencils, they're good for shading and things of your maps, so make sure you got those on hand. Oh, this is great. That'll make my job go much easier, yeah. I imagine that's going to save a lot of hassle trying to find some pigment when you're out and about. I have had that once when I was mapping out a particular dense jungle region of Ronajaya. I actually came into a bit of trouble with a Draconi clan there. They ambushed me and actually took me captive for a while. He goes, oh geez, that's not nice. He said, yeah, it wasn't too bad. They were religious types and they wanted to just convert me to their religion. So after a day or two, I just pretended to follow what they wanted until they let me go away. That's very smart of you. He goes, and you say, yeah, but in that region I was traveling for enough time that I ran out of ink and I still wanted to map the area. So I was just like, had to find some like berries and make my own and smash them down. That was very resource smart of you. Does the pencil have a rubber on it? He gives you an eraser as well. Basically, he gives you anything in your inventory that you would need. The cartographer's tools. He's just refilling any of that sort of stuff. The other thing that you're going to want is a dry bag. So I've got a dry bag on hold. I've paid for it already with the grant, and a bunch of rations as well. I've pre-ordered a bunch of dry bag and rations for you. You're going to need to pick them up from the IFI, or the YFIH, I think it's actually called. Basically, it's a general store in town. I think it stands for You'll Find It Here. It's basically a big old store where you get pretty much anything. People just call it the IFI. So if you go to the IFI and pick up an order for Randy, they'll have a dry bag and rations for you. When we captured, about 4 years ago probably. Randy, do we get a mount or a wagon or any bodyguards? Or something? I'm afraid the grant doesn't stick to bodyguards. That's why I asked for somebody who can handle themselves, and Expression said you can handle yourself, right? Is she wrong? Like, no, I think I can handle myself in a fight, but like, just wanted to check. Now I specifically asked for someone who can take care of themselves on the road, essentially. So I'm afraid you're gonna have to handle that yourself. How about a mount or something to ride? Well, again, you could use part of your payment to hire a mount if you want, but that's up to you. I'm afraid that's going to come out of your pocket. We can't just reliably forage at all times in the woods anymore. No, you are no longer playing a ranger with a forest-favoured terrain. And you may come to learn why rangers are actually pretty useful in a campaign, because I'm not going to be hand-waving all the stuff that you hand-wave when you've got a ranger in the group. Oh, you've been very generous. I'll do my best. I know you will. I'm not at all. I'm not at all worried. I don't see you as encountering as many problems as a 5-foot whatever human would. Do you know anyone who's been to the swamps and can tell me more about the dangers? Well, as I say, there was a mercenary, a bodyguard of sorts. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to find him. It was a couple of years ago. He was a young fella, quite hot-headed, carried a massive sword. If you ever came across a bodyguard or mercenary or something, I'm sure you could ask, but not many people around these parts go north of the river, for good reason. I can't even remember where it wasn't my guild, obviously, I don't know, but the diplomat, they, I tell you, if you go to the diplomacy guild, they might be able to give you his name. Maybe he knows where the bodyguard was. It's a long shot though. It's been a couple of years. A massive anime sword by chance? Yeah, the guy goes, oh, he looked oddly like this. Human with blue hair and a massive anime sword. For those who haven't picked up on this, this is hinting at one of my home games. One of the characters' backstory happened to be, and I checked it last night because I was like, I'm pretty sure his backstory said that he was in this area. And a couple of years ago, he was in this area trying to find his father, and became a bodyguard to an elvish diplomat who tried to set up relations in the Drennsall. The player playing that character decided, diplomacy missions didn't go very well, but I spent some time in the swamp just getting used to nature. Explained something about his backstory, and then eventually he went back to Windraven. So I was like, sweet. There has been a diplomacy sent into the Drennsall at some point. What time of day is it now? It is probably approaching late afternoon. You've probably got a couple hours before the EFE closes, if they're working sort of 9 to 5 hours. Are we on a deadline to get this swamp mapped? Says, well, as I say, you're only going to make 10 gold for it. So if you take more than a week, you're starting to really eat into your daily allowance, as it were. If you can get that thing mapped out within, if you can get your preliminary measurements and things mapped out and all the details and notes taken, and you can come back in a week, then you've earned a decent bob for your daily rate. But if you take 3 weeks to do it, then you're not getting all that much. It's really on you. I might be able to swing more in the budget of the grant that we were given if you come back after a week and say it's much too big of a job because of this reason or that reason, maybe I can swing more out of the grant. But it would be about sort of me. I would have to petition the king essentially to send us more. Jason went north, the swamp is south. No, the swamp is north. It's called the South Drennsall because the Drennsall is the entire right-hand side, the entire eastern coast of the island, and you are south of it. So to get into the South Drenlock, you go north. Go to the other guild, look for info on the mercenary. Someone else has been out to the swamp. Can do. Should the order be ready at the EFE now? Has any lodgings arranged for me, or is that up to me as well? He goes, well, I did actually think that either you can get lodging in town, and that will come out of the expenses of the grant. I can do that, or if you wouldn't mind, and maybe I could pass the savings onto you instead. You could take Jason's office, and I'm happy for you to hold up there. Like if you've got a bedroll or something, or maybe you can pick one up when you're at the EFE. If you don't have one, you could always just set up in Jason's office, save the money on accommodation, and then I can pass those savings on to you as additional payment. If it's up to you. Either find accommodation and it'll come out of the grant, or set up here for free, and that's really your choice. For spelling for you fancy, it is called the Drennsall, NNA. I say we go try talking to the other guilds since we're already here, just in case they've got any more information. Could be useful. Oh yeah, that'll work. I'm used to roughing it. Let's give me a thumbs up, thumbs down on which choice you wish to do. So let's say thumbs up to just saving money and taking Jason's office. Thumbs down if you want to go find accommodation that's properly intended for sleeping. Your personality trait on your character sheet, if you remember, is that you are pretty frugal. You're used to doing everything to save money. You've slept on the streets for many of your formative years. You are more than used to sleeping on much worse conditions to the floor of an office. So yes, it seems like you are completely on board, almost entirely unanimously, with taking Jason's office, saving the money, and he can pass on those accommodation costs to you. So you say you'll do so. Yeah, I'll take Jason's office, no problem. It saves time coming and going to the office in the mornings, doesn't it? It does, yeah. Fair enough then. I'll give you the same amount that I would have been paying for accommodation. I'll write you like a little invoice or something just to make it official for the details. Otherwise, the people of the finance guild get a little bit pissy if we're not accounting for things in the grant. At the stay at an inn, he would have paid modest for 3 silver a night. Is that enough? No, I'd say that with my change in prices, that'd be close to 6 silver a night. Let's say 4 in Portsend. Be 4 silver a night. 4 silver a night. So he goes, I'll happily pay you another 4 silver on top of it. So 4 silver a night, wherever you're staying here, no problem. Because basically you're saving me money here. It's got 4 walls and a roof, doesn't it? I think it was unanimous. Chat agreed on something for once. Yeah. We've got a roof and it's better than what we'd find before. I want to snoop through his office, see if there's clues. Update the quest log. Thank you for the reminder. So we have met with Randy. What is now? So we are at Portsend and we've met with Randy. Now we need to collect dry bag and rations. Because we've done Portsend as well. Collect dry bag and rations from Efi. You'll find it here is the name of the general store. Why can I not drag that? Hello. What am I doing wrong? Oh, yeah. Collect dry bag and rations from the Efi. We want to map the Drennsall and find Jason as an optional quest. Is that your find what happened to Jason? Something like that. So collect the dry bag and rations from there. You'll find it here. You map the Drennsall and what happened to Jason. Find out what's going on with the orcs as an optional quest. We've never met Jason. You've never met Jason. Jason you've only heard of. He is one of the other cartographers or one of the other Brush and Quill guild members. Since I'm new to this location, whereabouts are the other parts of the guild? The other parts of the guild? The other guilds in the faction, you mean? Or what do you mean? This is the only Brush and Quill we've got. There's only, a small handful of us. But, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not exactly sure what you meant. And then have a little snoop. No snooping, yes snooping. Alright, well, there's a couple people wanting to snoop, a couple people not. Let's put it to a vote. Put thumbs up if you want to try and snoop around the guild at all, like snoop around people's offices, see if there's anything that they're not telling us. And put thumbs down if you do not want to snoop around the offices of the Brush and Quill. You don't want to snoop on the guy who's paying us. Majority of people saying no, let's not snoop, just to make sure this doesn't get... oh no, that's just replying to somebody else. No, almost unanimously, no. We're not going to be snooping on anyone. Okay, so then we're not going to snoop on anyone. We will head next door. He heads back into his office. He says, "My door is open. If you need anything, come and ask." Of course, you head into Jason's office, and you can have a little look around Jason's office. It's not exactly snooping to just look around, see what's going on there. You can tell that it's been cleared out of anything useful because he's been gone for several months, so it's mainly just an empty office at this point. There are a few papers that are yet to be sorted through. That's just kind of probably on someone's to-do list to eventually go through these papers, just on Jason's desk, a few stacked up things. Without feeling like you're snooping, you just kind of flick through them to see if there's any immediate clues as to where he might have gone or what he was doing. Nothing jumps out at you immediately. And without going into it detailed with snooping, then you're not going to get anything information either. You decide on the comfiest part of the floor and maybe get your bedroll out and get that ready for when you come back. And with a couple of hours left of the day, you can go to the, you'll find it here to get the order, or you can go to the Diplomacy Guild somewhere else on this compound and see if you can find out anything about the mercenary who went into the Drennsall a couple of years ago. Which would we rather do? There's only enough time in the day to really do one of those. Go pick up your dry bag and things. Go to the store, pick up your dry bag, go pick up your order. Alright. Most people quite clearly saying, let's go to the Efi. So you head back out. On the way out, you're heading out to go and grab the stuff. You shout to Randy like, I'm just going to go pick up the dry bag order now, yeah? You said it's an order to Randy? He says, yeah, just put Randy Crocker. I put it under. They know me, I think. I've ordered a fair amount apart from them. They should know me by now. And you say, no problem. And then you head out, and as you're walking out, you realise you're not from Portsend. You don't know where the hell Efi is. So you turn and ask Janice instead, like, excuse me, and you tap the table, get her attention. Yeah. You say, I'm looking for the Efi. She goes, the Efi, you find it here? You say, yeah. And she goes, yeah, and she gives you directions. Just straight out, 3 rights, go down until you find the left, blah, 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 whatever. Gives you some street directions, and you, thank you very much. Thank you. She smiles, and like she's appreciative that you've paid attention to when she thanked you. You've obviously do the sign back to her as well. She gives you like a smile as like, oh, thank you. That's very kind. That's very considerate of you to pay attention like that. You head out of the guild and out of the faction compound, and you start following the directions through Portsend. Through Portsend, you are walking down the streets. It is slightly later into the day, so people are starting to finish work. If they're finishing work early, or if they've done their commissions and things for the day, if you labourers and stuff have done all that they were commissioned for the day, so there's no point in sticking around. You can see people doing the end of day tasks, like outside of the blacksmiths' shops and the carpenters' shops. There's people coming in to like sweep up and pick up all of the scrap metals and things like that. So there's a few more people around, and they're starting to acknowledge and recognise you. You do get one person, I think, who's going to be brave enough. Let's just see. Yeah. You get one person who goes, "Oi!" And you try and ignore it. "Oi!" And you turn towards them. And from across the street, you see a human fellow. He's probably in his late 20s, early 30s, something like that. Got a bit of a scarred up face, and he's kind of just leaning against a wall. And there's like 3 other guys standing next to him, 3 other humans. They look to be sort of loitering more than anything else. And one of them, who is clearly like the head of this particular little posse, has clearly worked himself up the bravery to go, "You fucking bugbear!" Now, you are aware of bugbears. It's not uncommon to be mistaken for one, but only by the ignorant. Because anybody who ever actually knows what a bugbear is, or has seen a bugbear, knows that you don't look anything like a bugbear. Despite having bear in the name, they are goblinoids. They are tall creatures, about as tall as you, and they are furry all over, but they have a much more goblinoid face, not a snout face. And they have much longer arms, and they tend to be like a elongated. I suppose with you being noodly, it kind of is a lot. You're a lot more resembling a bugbear than you would if you were like a bulky Urnivora. So this person's kind of like, maybe he knows that you're not a bugbear and is just doing it to be racist and intimidating, or to be like just feeling like he's cocky in front of his friends, or maybe he's just genuinely ignorant and thinks you're a bugbear. I'll tell you as well that bugbears are not usually looked upon kindly. Much like orcs, they often have a bad reputation. So what do we want to do? Is there any particular way that we want to do? We've got people wanting to ignore them straight up, some people wanting to bare our teeth or try and intimidate them. You do have proficiency intimidation because you have intimidating insights. Having grown up in a bear culture, you know how to use your bear abilities. If you wanted to growl or you wanted to snarl, you are proficient in doing so. Proficient in intimidating. Or you can just try and smile at them or ignore them. You could go straight across the street and knock him out in a single punch, probably, being a monk. What is it that you're most interested in doing? I think, let's see. I think we will put it to a poll because there's a few different people asking for a few different options. So we'll go what to do in response. So do we want to intimidate? That will cover growling, snarling, showing teeth. Do we want to be friendly? Do we want to ignore completely? Do we want to be outwardly hostile, as in like straight up attack them? Or do we want to be passive-aggressive? Be pass-ag. I'll give you 1 minute to decide. Your time starts now. If you are not seeing the poll pop up, make sure to refresh the page. You'll see the poll. Those are your options. Generally how Twitch Tales works with these multiple polls. If nothing reaches a majority, i.e. nothing reaches a 50% or higher on the first time, then I will get rid of the lowest options. I'll basically look at the fourth most popular option, and I'll say if I got rid of the fifth and all the people who had voted for fifth had instead voted for fourth, and that would have taken it to 50%, then I'll only get rid of the fifth one. But if even the people who voted for fourth and fifth all together still wouldn't have made 50%, then I'll get rid of the fourth and fifth. And if those people had all voted for the third option, if that had taken above 50%, that's fine, and I'll go again with just those three options. Otherwise, I'll basically keep running that algorithm in my head until we get down to a point where most often it comes down to two options that we end up going back to. So either we end up with a 50% from the first vote, or we end up going to a second vote with just two options, usually. So, for instance, nobody voted for be hostile, so straight up go across the street and knock him out. So if I got rid of that, the vote would be exactly the same. Only 5 people voted intimidate, so if all of those 5 people had voted for ignore, ignore still wouldn't have made 50%. So I'm going to get rid of ignore, intimidate, and be hostile, and I'm going to put the vote down to preferential voting. Go a second time, be passag or be friendly. Those are the two options. Poll, be passag, passive, aggressive, say something a little bit snarky, whatever, or just be genuinely friendly. I'll tell you for just extra detail in case that sways anything, they are all human, they all look to be late 20s, maybe one of them's sort of mid or even early 20s. There are 4 of them. One of them seems to be the more brazen leader sort of type. It looks like they're all pretty rough and ready. They've probably been in a lot of fights. They're probably just, maybe they're just a gang, or maybe they're just unorganized street hooligans, or you don't know what the deal is with them, but if you got into a fight with them, or if you did something that could escalate, then maybe it could kick off something. With 54% of the vote, we decide to just have a friendly approach. So in this moment, as he goes, "You a fucking bugbear," you decide on just a genuinely friendly approach. A good way to disarm hostility is to not engage with it. So being friendly, you turn and say something to the effect of, "Oh, no, I'm not a bugbear. I understand why you think so, though. My kind's not really from around here, neither bugbear." "No, you're not from around here." "No, I'm not. I'm an Urnivora. And you're human, yeah?" He goes, "What do you mean? Yeah, of course I'm human." "Well, it's nice to meet you. I'm Nifa. I'm just heading to the Efi." And you're just friendly, and he's like, "Yeah, well, we don't like bugbears around here." "No, neither do I guess. Although, I can't say I've ever actually met one." "Well, have a nice day." And you turn and walk away from him. I'm just going to roll for him to see how he handles this. Okay. Basically, his wisdom save against his for his better judgment over his worse judgment. If he'd failed it, he would have been like, "I'm just going to do something stupid to try and be aggressive." But he got a nat 20, so his wisdom save comes in and stops him from doing anything that's a bit stupid. Maybe he's already on the Knights of Kavosna's watch list of like, "You're on a warning, buddy. Stop starting fights." And so he goes, fuck off. He's not very eloquent at coming up with things. So you just ignore him and keep on walking. And you continue on to the directions you've been following. You end up at the Efi. And off we fuck, yeah. Probably the smarter choice, but I still kind of think we were snarky with him. I will tell you that snarky would have reduced the... I was thinking snarky or hostility or anything, or even ignoring, would have increased the chances that he would have escalated and gone further. In my mind, that friendly was the best option for you. Not to say that the others couldn't work, it would have just adjusted the DC in my head as to how likely it was that he was going to escalate and kick something off with you. If you'd been passag or said something sarcastic or something to him, he wouldn't have taken that well, and he would have gone, because you can't humiliate him in front of his buddies, in front of his gang, essentially. And he would have been more likely to come across the road and get in your face a bit. Still at that point, still not kicking off a fight, but he would have been escalating, and then I would have probably put it to another poll and said, like, what now? And if you'd have still been passag or aggressive, then he might have like spat on you or something like that, and much more likely turned that into a 4-on-1 gang fight. So friendly was the best option, and then with a nat 20 on his save, he decided like, okay, better to leave it, I guess. And it's not long before you arrive at the IFA, the Efi. The Efi is a large general store. You can see that it's got enough space outside for cart parking, essentially. There's a couple of hitching posts for the horses. There is a horse or two hitched to it. And there's people coming and going out of it as well. You've just caught it towards the end of the day before they are completely shut. So it's a little bit more people coming out than going in at this point. But as you step inside, you see that there is off to the right-hand side the checkout and cashier desk, I guess, and then lots of aisles of just things. Basically anything on the adventuring table in the PHB, you could probably find it here. Anything, even magic items to a certain degree, and there's a sign hanging over the inside the building, but hanging from the ceiling of the foyer, I suppose, is a large sign that says, "You'll find it here," and then in brackets underneath it says, "And if you can't, we'll get it." So basically, they're really good at imports and exports and putting things on hold and putting things on order for you, and basically they pride themselves on whatever the hell you want. So you walk in, you have a look around, you see that the person behind the cashier desk is a dwarven person, a dwarg. Let's see, how familiar are you with dwarves in my world? Urnivora has a few dwarves, but not many, I don't think. Let's see. 18 on your history. Sorry, I should have rolled that because it was for you. I forgot that was your roll. 18 on your history. You are proficient in history, and it's an intelligence-based thing, so that's a +4 onto 18, 22. So you're pretty proficient. You're pretty experienced with dwarves, apparently, dwarven culture. You gather that this one is a hill dwarg or a ground dwarg, same race, same species as Apis is. As for gender, as they are presenting, much similar to Apis, they are also androgynous. I roll all my NPCs on an NPC character creator table, by the way, so it just happened to be that this dwarf was the same species as Apis and the same gender identity as Apis. They look quite young. From your 22 history check on dwarves, you are familiar enough with them to know, to be able to sort of read their age at a general glance. They look to be the equivalent of like a teenager. Do they have a beard? They do have like a little bit of scraggle on the base of their beard, on the base of their chin, and then sideburns. Knowing dwarven culture with your 22, you know that usually the femme-presenting ones tend to take off their facial hair, depending on which culture they're from. But yeah, they've probably tried to be a little ambiguous with it. Apis is in witness protection. Yeah. They're carrying a bow, have a giant bee helping them to sell things. No, they are, let's see, where are you, Efi? They, as you are walking in, I'll give you an insight check. I'll remember to turn your camera on for this one. 3, not so great. maybe you're distracted by looking around the shelves and things, your insight would be a +6 onto that, taking it to a 9. So you can't really tell much else about them. They're just androgynous dwarf teenager who is currently serving a human gentleman. You walk over. Oh, hi. Kia ora. I'm here to pick up order for Randy Cosgrove. Said it'd be probably be ready by now. And the dog sort of just puts up a finger towards you and continues the transaction with the human. Oh, no, Crocker, sorry. Randy Crocker. Can we hire someone besides Rob to do the dice rolls? You've rolled a lot of high rolls so far today. It's only that that's been kind of crap. Eventually they serve, they hand over their things, and then they turn towards you. What was that? Here to pick up an order for Randy Crocker? Oh, yeah. Yeah, Scotland. See, oh, yeah, Randy said you'd be over. Didn't say you'd be, whatever you are, though. What are you? Sorry, that's rude. What are you? Just repeats the exact same question because they can't think of a less rude way of asking. I'm an Urnivora. Oh, Urnivora! I've never met one in the flesh. I've done business with your folk. I've got to import some things from Treocockshire, and there's an Urnivora fella over there that does business with me. That's well. I'm pleasure to meet you. Holds out a hand. Do you want to shake this person's hand after semi-insulting you? Sure. You chuckle. You shake the hand and say, "Well, likewise, pleasure to meet you. I'm Nifa, cartographer, new to town." Says, I'm Pesh. It's nice to meet you, Pesh. You've got the order for Randy? Oh, that's right. It's just this way. Come with me to the back. Heads to the around the cashier desk essentially. Somebody's just approaching as they're leaving. Be right with you. Heads on out up to the back. Have we ever met a dwarg? You've met dwargs before, yeah. They're not super uncommon where you're from. They're as common as sort of tieflings are here. Dwarves and humans are where you're from. The people where you're from are mostly Draconi, which is like Dragonborn. The reptile folk, which is like your lizard folk, your snake folk, your skink, gecko, iguana folk, crocodilian folk, turtle folk, dinosaur folk, and then a whole bunch of mammalian folk as well, like the Nivora folk, the Taras, which is the small sort of rat-like folk. There's a lot of animal folk where you're from, and then the humans, elves, and dwarves. They can be found there, but they're Tuatara folk. The Tuatara folk are within the dinosaur folk. I haven't homebrewed all of these yet. I haven't given them all stats, but they do exist in the world. So yeah, you've met dwarves before, but like not a lot of them. You head with them towards the back room of this general store, and they let you in. They get you a dry bag out. They open it up to show you that the full order is in there. They get out an itemized list of the things that they'd ordered. It's all on there. They show you you've got rations, you've got a couple of water skins in there, and you've got your dry bag, basically everything that your inventory, your satchel, and everything you're carrying in your inventory page right here can go into the dry bag, so that if you happen to go into a swamp and fall into the water, we don't need to worry about what's happening to your parchment and your papers and your maps and things like that. And your spare change of clothes. It's like one of these waterproof bags that rolls up at the top and clips shut, like you take into a kayak or something like that. While we're here, is there anything in stock you might find useful in our explorations? If there's anything in particular you want to get, you can, but you have this much gold to spend, and we don't want to spend a hell of a lot of time just on a shopping episode. You've got pretty much what you need, but if there is something you want in particular, you can ask them to get it on hold for you, and it might be here when you come back. Well, thank you very much. This will be very handy. Nope, that was Scottish. I went into Apis there. Oh, thanks very much, Archer. That'd be very handy, eh? As for anything to be prepared in the marsh, unsinking swamp boots, life vest. You said you don't happen to have any footwear that like helps you walk over like muddy or marshy or boggy terrain, do you? Like watery terrain? He goes, she says, or they actually, I think they go by. Let me check. Pesh is they, yeah. They say, let me think. I'm going to put this to a percentile roll. What do we want to put this as? What would they have? Boots that allow you to ignore difficult terrain, essentially. I think that would be a relatively common item, maybe uncommon. I'll put it at, I think there's just a 20% chance that they have some. I got a 38, so unfortunately no, they don't have some. They say, I don't have any of those at the moment, but I can order them in if you're interested. Like, it might take a little while to come here, but if you want me to, I'll put some on order for you. Boots made for walking? That's pretty funny. Oh, no thanks, I'm heading out. I won't be here for a while, but thanks anyway. Alright, so you head out. Do they have any healing potions? They do have healing potions on stock. They are not cheap. Because you are buying them retail, not wholesale, as in like straight from the source, like an elf or something, then they're usually somewhere in the vicinity of, depending on prices and stuff, you might be able to haggle somebody down to like 40, maybe even 30 gold, but they are expensive, and you don't have that much money on you. Thanks anyway. And you head out of the store. Did we get 10 gold from Randy? Not yet, you didn't. So you head back. The sun is starting to set. You are walking back along the street now. I'm going to roll to see what happened to that little gang of douches on the street there. Are they still here or are they not? Is that a healing potion? That red one is a healing potion. You have one light potion of healing. For anyone who doesn't know, you can take an action to drink the potion of healing and it'll give you the full healing, which is 10 hit points. Or you can take a bonus action to sort of drink it back quicker, but then you roll for the hit points instead, and you might get as little as 4 hit points back. You'll get anywhere between 4 and 10. What happened to the guys on the street? I'm going to put it at a... I'm going to make this a sort of bravado check for them. So the higher the bravado, the more chance they are of sticking around. That's a 14. So I think they were on the verge of disappearing and being like, fuck it, let's go. And then one of them was like, what are they buying from the store though? Maybe there's something what are they buying? And so they were like, yeah, fuck them, you didn't talk to us like that. And then they've started walking towards the store. There's still only the 4 of them, but as you walk out of the store, you see them walking up the street towards you. They're still a whiles away, maybe like 100 feet or so away, but so if you wanted to, you could take a side street, you could cross the street, you could try and avoid them entirely, or you can just confidently walk right past them and use that passive intimidation that you've got to just like tell them to not try anything. What do you guys want to do? Head into the nearest shop, avoid them, walk past them, wait at the store. There's a few different options here, so I'll put it to a poll. 81% of the vote deciding just confidently walk past them. So you stay on your side of the street, you know they're coming towards you, you're confidently striding forwards. I'll make you a confidence check, I see. I think the passive, I'm definitely going to be using your passive intimidation here, but I'm going to modify it up or down depending on how good your confidence is. You guys can tell I'm a bear, right? So confidence check, let's say this is going to be, I feel like a wisdom or charisma thing. I'm going to use your proficiency from intimidation because I think your confidence is coming from your ability to know that you've got this and you know how to intimidate somebody if you can, not that you're trying to do so. But basically I'm going to make it a wisdom-based intimidation check here as sort of a stand-in for a confidence check. So with the dice cam, there you go. That is a 10 on the dice, plus your wisdom of 3, plus your proficiency of 3, so that is a 16 on the dice. 16 is good, so I'm going to modify your passive intimidation up even further, essentially. So So you're going to walk forwards. I'm going to roll for each of the 4 of them individually just to see how they handle with that. The leader is actually better than that roll, so he's still confident. The other two behind him are not. The other guy is at nat 20. So 2 of them, especially the last guy, feels like, yeah, let's fucking beat up some outsider bear person. The guy in the front's like, yeah, this is going to be okay, because he got 1 above your score. So he's like, you know what, I got this. And then there's other 2, his cronies, as you're getting closer, sort of like looking down, realising that you've got claws, realising that you're 7 foot tall. As you're getting closer, they're seeing just how tall you are, and they're thinking, maybe not. They're starting to look a little scared. I'll give you an insight check just to see if you can pick up on how they're all feeling as well. Insight check from you, nat 1. So you're confident about your own abilities, but you're not really picking up on how they're feeling about it either. So you just keep walking. The guy at the front says, "What you buy?" And you say, "None of your business." And you just kind of walk past. He's going to try and shoulder check you. This is going to be a contested. Well, he's going to basically make an athletics check against your strength save. Thankfully for you, he got a 2 on his athletics check, plus his modifier won't be very much, maybe a 4. Strength saving throw from you. You'll see you have a -1 strength save, -1 strength, but it is outlined in white, meaning you are proficient in strength saving throws. So the dice cam is going to be a -1 plus your proficiency, taking you to a 2 strength save. 5 plus 2 is 7. It's not a very good strength save because you're not very strong, but thankfully he didn't have a lot of he wasn't on the right foot when he tried to shoulder check you, and he sort of bounced and sort of slipped off the curb into the road a little bit, and the 2 that were already kind of freaking out just kind of backed off at that point and one of them grabbed him before he fell. The guy who got the nat 20 on confidence is like, "Oi, which way you fucking going?" and like comes right up to you and tries to get in your face. He's, let's say, how tall is he going to be? He's human. He's fully grown adult, so he's probably around the 5'10" mark. Let's just roll. I'll go 5'10", plus or minus, plus 2. So he's actually a tall fella. So he's plus 4. So he's 6'2". So he's actually quite tall for a human, especially these days. Like, it's very rare for humans to get above 6 foot. So the one that's still brazen is about 6'2". He's still about 5 inches shy of you, but he's like kind of right up in your face now. Just disengage and keep walking. Excellent, love it. Gets up right up in your face. Which way you fucking walking? And you say, "Yeah, you too." And you walk. You sort of just use the disengage action and just keep walking straight from him. And with your 55 foot, you suddenly start to pick up the pace, and they turn. "Hey, I'm talking. Are you all right?" And he turns around, and then by the time he's turned back, you're like a good 30 feet away already. "Watch yourself!" he calls after you, and you just you're gone by the time that they're like regrouped themselves and like not pissing themselves. Thankfully, the guy who got a 3 didn't get a nat 1, otherwise he might have genuinely peed himself. And you just confidently walk past, thinking like, all right, this is the sort of thing that I might be in for from time to time. I'm going to have to be aware of that. Go back to the compound, find that it's closed. Each individual guild hall is closing. You walk back into the Brush and Quill. Janice is no longer at her desk because it's the end of the day. You walk through the front doors and you see the first building, the first office off to the right is the one that says Janice above it. At this point you can tell her last name as well because you look at the sign. You see it's Adesina. Janice Adesina. And then the one above, the next one is Jason's office. You head into the middle office. And as you walk into Jason's office, you've got your bag, you've got your belongings, you're ready to set out the next day, you've got your bedroll, and you've got a few hours of downtime before you set off in the morning towards mapping out the Drennsall. What do you want to do? You could try copy that big map with a few hours of the downtime. Look through that pile of papers for anything useful now. Find a pub or a tavern for dinner and collecting info, maybe. Okay, so we can go through Jason's paperwork to see if there's anything useful, anything that might give us hints about where he's gone or how he disappeared, or like this forest, the swamp that he went to map. We can sketch out the map. We can go out for dinner and a drink out in the town to whatever, to relax or to get a feel for people or to meet new people or to gain information from people in the area. Is it allowed in guild rules to copy a map? As long as you don't try and use that to publish your own. So don't use a person's map as a basis for making your own and then try and publish it as your own work. but it's fine to like copy the details of a map before you're heading out on an excursion. I'll say as well, just to save you some time as well, because having thought about it, I think this would be something that Randy would have also given you. I just forgot to put it in my notes. When you get back into Jason's office, Randy's left for the day, but he's left you a little note on Jason's desk that's a map of the immediate area. It's not like a super detailed, like what do they call those ones that like fold out into a million pieces that like hikers use with all of the all of the different lines and stuff on it, and there's an acronym or an initialism for them or something. Can't remember what they're called. An O something. Topographic map of, there's an Ordnance Survey map, right? An OS map. It's not an Ordnance Survey map. It's not a fully topographic, but it's a decent enough map to get distances from Dalen to Portsend, Portsend to the river, where the bridges are on the river to get over to the Drennsall, or where the one bridge is really. Where the one bridge is that gets you to north of the river, and then like distances to the edges of the Drennsall sort of thing. Ordnance Survey is the brand of map, is it? Oh, okay. I didn't know that was a brand. I thought it was just the name of that type of a map. Is that type of a map just called a topographic map or something then? Orienteering map? It's only a UK thing. Oh, okay. Learn something new every day. I should have looked up more things to do with maps before starting this mini campaign, I guess. So you've got like a map of the immediate area and distances that it's going to take you. Then once you get to the Drennsall, that's the part that's not really been mapped. So knowing that, do you want to take any details down of the big map? Do you want to spend your time going out to town to eat and drink and things, or do you want to go through Jason's notes on the desk? Which or something else, I guess. Study the office, check his notes, go to pub dinner, check his notes. I think the majority of people saying check the notes on the desk. All right. So if there's any time after this, we'll see. But you sort of sit down, you check the note that's left. Randy's left you saying, forgot to give you this. Feel it will probably come in handy. And you, sure enough, you pop the map away in your dry bag. And then you start looking at the notes on Jason's desk, the big pile of paperwork, just seeing what was he working on, what might have got him, sort of thing. Just skimming for anything relevant to the journey. Yeah, it doesn't feel like snooping because I don't want to go back on your player agency choice from before, but just skimming through, seeing if there's anything jumps out at you as interesting. For this, I will have you make an investigation check. I'll allow you to. Can you just take 20 on it? Yeah, you know what? You can just take 20 on it. There's no time restraint to just doing it again after you've failed, so you might as well just take 20, which means, for those who don't know the terminology, in Dungeons & Dragons, when you take 20 at something, it means if there is a check you're attempting that doesn't really have a failure condition, like if nothing happens if you fail, and you have enough time to just attempt it again and again and again until eventually you succeed, then you might as well just take 20 minutes to just do the thing over and over again until essentially you've rolled a 20 and you get all of the information that is available to get. So you take 20 to make an investigation check. You are not proficient in investigation, but you just have your +1 intelligence, so total of 21. I'll tell you what you managed to get from that. So first thing that jumps out at you is a lot of his work is just doodles and scribbles and scrolls. Like, it seems like he's a very artistic kind of guy that likes to have his hands moving whenever he's thinking or doing stuff. There's lots of just like swirls, and there's the space filling curves. There's those that kind of go back and forth on themselves and kind of go into the grooves and then fill it all in, kind of like later stages of the game Snake, when you're trying to fill in the page without bashing your own tail. He's done a lot of that sort of stuff to fill out the pages on the edges and stuff. And you can admire the penmanship and stuff, but it's not really coming out as useful to you. You also grab that there are some notes on his preparation for going to the Drennsall. He's listed out a few of the most likely dangers. He's listed that there is a known goblin clan that lives in the Drennsall, and they're a pretty big potential danger. He has noted that there's lots of local fauna that is a problem. So there's leeches, there's sturges, which are like gigantic mosquitoes. He says that some of the frogs can get quite aggressive and quite large, so you know that there's potential for giant frogs there. Also, the rats of the area can be a problem if you come across some large ones. So there's lots of the potential rats, frogs, sturges, and leeches. He says even the plant life of the swamp can be a problem. And then after that, on an angle, he said, blights, question mark. I'm going to make you an Arcana check, see if your character knows about blights. I'm going to give you advantage because you come from a dense jungle forest. Shit, I should have rolled in the tray, sorry. That was a 7 and an 8. 8 plus your Arcana. You don't have Arcana, so it's just a 9. You've heard of blights, but you're not exactly sure what they are. They're just like dangerous plants or something. Calling it right now, if we fight any goblins, don't leave any of them wounded and tied to a tree. Are there any yak-sized frogs, maybe? Was that a yes to goblins? There are goblins, he said. He said there's a goblin clan known to reside in the Drennsall. He said some of the plants are a problem, and he's written blights in question mark. And then he said there's an entire new page on notes called Korsfret. That is Corsfret. Korsfret. And he said swamp elves. And that's underlined. Korsfret. Swamp elves. And then it says hostile question mark. And then there's a few details of the expedition that went out there, the diplomacy mission that went out there a couple of years ago. He says, oh shit, I don't think I named the elf that went out there, did I? What's a good elven name? A hoity, sort of a hoddery-doddery, older elf, like 600s. Expedition to Barrier Peak. What's like a name for a man? Jimbo is not going to work. An 600s elf. Reuben's good. Reuben. I'm going to write this down. Reuben. I'm going to put it under his notes. Makes sense. Reuben Adewin. I like that. Reuben Adewin. That was his name. He's got notes saying Reuben Adewin and +1, and he's put brackets mercenary Lagan question mark, close brackets. The Reuben Adewin expedition in 3991 to Korsfret, unsuccessful in diplomacy. Reuben encountered goblins, managed to talk his way out, returned to Portsend, unsuccessful. That's pretty much all you're going to get of use out of his 21 notes, I think, because that hadn't happened yet before he set off, so he didn't know about that in his notes. There's a few sketches of like the map that you've already got, like he's made his own map and you can see that he's done it a few times. Maybe Jason had like a tactile learning sort of learning style, because it seems like he's had to keep his hands busy all the time, and whenever he's like in preparing to remember the distances and teach himself how the Drennsall looks and like how it works, he's repeated the map over and over again for himself to like lock it into his mind before he sets off on his quest. There's a small checklist as well of the things that he took with him. It's much the same stuff that you have, with a dry bag and rations and torches and blah blah blah. Jason didn't come back. What about Reuben? Reuben did come back, but that was 3 years ago. Unsuccessful on his diplomacy mission. But Jason set off about 4 or 5 months ago and didn't come back. So, taking 20, that's taken a little bit of your time. You've still got a couple hours of the evening. You go out and start looking at the big old map, just admiring it. It's starting to get dark in here. Do you have low light vision? You do. You got low light vision, so it's not a problem for you. As it starts to get dim, you can still, like the reflective nature of the retinas that your species has, allows you to collect more light. More of those photons can light up, and you can still see in the dark pretty well. You're just studying the massive map above the door. it gets to the point where you need to eat before dinner, before bread time. So are you just going to eat one of the rations, or are you going to try and head out and find a place to eat? We talked to Reuben. Is he still here? Reuben's an old elf that was a diplomat. You're not sure where he would be. Maybe at the Diplomacy's Guild. Not sure. Copy down any roads and cities? Sure do. Easy enough to do without a check needed. You just copy down the main roads around where you are. Save the rations, head out, find a pub. Can we get back in? Yeah, you'll be able to get back in. You can just leave the door open for yourself. I'll say for expedience, so you don't have to worry about safety stuff. I'll say that on that map that Randy left you with the note on it, it says left you a key so that you can come and go as you please. So you've got like one of those old brass keys to get back in and out. So you walk back out of the guild hall, you close it back up, you walk out to try and find a pub to eat. I'm going to expedite this a little bit. So 19 plus stuff for your investigation check. You easily find a nice pub. Help me name it. What is this place called? Is it a nice like upper class restaurant? Is it like a low dingy rough and ready bar, or is it like somewhere in between? I'm going to put it in the notes for Portsend, places of note. The Goosefoot. The Goosefoot. I like that. I'm going with the first option there. The Goosefoot. And it's what? Is it it's a karaoke bar? Cheap but reasonably clean and safe. The Grin and Bear, it's nice. Alright, so it's the Goosefoot, a middling bar and restaurant. It's not an inn, it doesn't have any places to stay, but it's a nice bar and restaurant. Bar and restaurant. Cheap, but reasonably safe. Just gonna roll just to see if there's any troubles that encounter you on the way. Doesn't seem like it. So to jump ahead a little, you go to the Goosefoot. You walk in. Let's roll on the NPC table. Who's the people who own this place? 5 is of this area, so that would be human. D12 is 2. That's male. And age is this one. Ooh, old. Man, I think that's venerable. Even like a very old person, someone who should have either died or retired by now. Let me just check my table. Yeah, that's someone in their equivalent of 60s. So a male human in his 60s, which for this my setting, humans getting above 70 is rare. So like late 60s is pretty on there. But that man serves you. You ask him. He's surprised to see you, but doesn't really ask you questions. He's not one of these people who's asked you like, "Oh, who are you? What are you?" and stuff. You see some shock or surprise on his face with your natural insight, but he doesn't bother asking any questions about it. It seems like he's got a lot of people through here that are of different species. What was I looking up? How much it'll set you back? You've asked for a modest one, which will set you back about 3 silver pieces. So I'm going to head across here. Go to here. I'm going to mark off another 3 silver. There you go. So you paid for your food and drink for the night, and you head back to the accommodation without any issues befalling you. Died or retired by now. Wow, every human's incredulous at you right now. Keep in mind that these are not humans. They are hewens. I've not fully settled on that word, which is why I'm not quite using them yet. But in the same way that they're not dwarves, they're dwargs. They are hewens. They're a fantasy race that is very similar to humans, but they are not human beings. They are not Homo sapiens. They're a fantasy race that exists in my world and serve the purpose that humans do. And I have chosen that their life expectancy is about 70. So yes, late 60s is really getting on. You end up going back to the Hewens, H-U-E-N, but I'm not fully sold on the word choice yet. Head back to the guild, you let yourself in with the key, and making sure that nobody was following you. You lock yourself up for the night, and without issue, you manage to have a long rest. You have a long rest, and the next day you wake bright and early. You're awake before You wait before the people of the guild actually turn up for work. So you walk in. Out of your office and into the main hall. You're admiring the map again, taking a good closest look as you can from like underneath the map itself, like you've gone right up to it. You're enjoying that when the doors open and Randy walks in. Is there anything you want to do before you set off on the quest? Plan the trip, check the Diplomacy Guild. Alright, it is. A lot of people who've been asking to go and check out that Diplomacy Guild, see if Ruben's still around. You head out. Thank Randy for his hospitality. He says no problems. Like it's there's no skin off his nose. He asks you if you want your full payment now or if you want actually. No, you've come as a recommendation, so he would trust you. Also, he doesn't want to give you the money and then you die in the swamp. So yeah, no, he wouldn't offer you the full payment now. He does ask. He says, happy to hold on to the payment until you're back, or I can give you half now and half when you're back. So if you want half now and half when you get back, then that's your choice. He can give you 5 gold. Leave it all here. Half now. Let him hold it. No need for carrying money around the swamp. All right. Thumbs up for half now. Thumbs down for hold on to the whole thing till we're back. Let's little ups, little downs, but it's now slipping definitely towards the downs now. All right, so you think about it. You're like, yeah, I'll take half now, and then as he goes to get it, you're like, no, actually, Randy, can you? I think you better just hold on to it. I've got no reason to need money in a swamp, and I've got a little bit of money in myself anyway. He goes, oh yeah, no worries. So he holds on to the whole thing till you're done with it, essentially. So you decide to leave it all here. He does, just as a minor compromise, I guess, he will give you the, I think the 3 silver was it that we said that he would have saved? 4 silver it might have been. I wish it went down to 5 plus 3. I think it might have been 4 anyway. He hands you the 4 silver that he saved on not having to do accommodation for you. And then you ask him about where the Diplomats Guild is, and he tells you. You head off down that direction. And you ask for Ruben. Is Ruben still here? Let me give a percentile check to see if Ruben's even still living here. He is, but he's not in at the moment. So you ask, like, I wanted to ask him about his mission to the Drennsall, and they say, I mean, I'll tell you, he's not the friendliest person, and I'm not sure that he really wants to talk about it. You can stick around and try and ask him stuff, but really, everything that you can learn about it's already kind of been told to the people around. I don't know that he can tell you much. Do you know who? Sorry, not Scottish. Do you know who he hired? The mercenary fella? Kid, just some kid, some muscle-bound kid with a big sword. Negan or something? Something like Negan. Yeah. Is he around? Do you know if he still lives? No, he didn't even come back with Ruben. Ruben came back on his own, and the bodyguard came through like 6 months or something later and set off down to Windraven, I think. Diplomat isn't friendly. Diplomat, an elvish diplomat, isn't friendly, brackets, to non-elves. He was sent off on a mission to try and be diplomatic with the elves that live in the swamp, and then just doesn't really like to talk about stuff with other people that aren't diplomats. You get the impression just from what this person's told you that Ruben is kind of I'll be nice to my equals. I'm friendly to my equals, but the type of person that's probably not very friendly to waiting staff and things. Elves just suck. Some of them do, yes. Well, thank you for your help, eh? Have a nice day. Yeah, you too. You head out and you think, I'm probably not going to get anything out of Ruben. So you just set off to the north. Heading up out of Portsend, you have the map. You have also already studied it in your mind as well, and with a mind for maps you can remember most of how it goes. You start to journey. I'll have you make a survival check to just see how the journey goes. This is kind of not just about, it's not about getting lost so much because you've got a map and a mind for it. This is just kind of summing up whether it's an enjoyable journey or anything else. Also, I'm just going to roll for the weather to see if it's changed at all from yesterday. No, exactly the same as yesterday. Still cold, blustery, and bright. So not very cloudy, but chilly. So, heading off north, I'll have you roll a survival check. That is a 12. 12 plus wisdom is 15, and you are not proficient in survival, so just a 15. 15's pretty good. So you head up to the river. It's a pleasant journey. Nothing's jumping out at you. Nothing's being a craziness. You're not proficient in perception, but I'll get you make a perception check all the same, just to see if you notice anything else on the way. Your perception is a 15 on the dice, plus 3 from wisdom is an 18, and you're not proficient unless you stop and stare, and you're not doing that right now. So with an 18, however, as you're watching, you do notice a couple of creatures off on the horizon of the mountains to your left, to the west, as you're heading north. You're looking over towards the mountains, and you're seeing that there's a couple of things moving, tiny little what looks like ants or maggots or something that are just kind of flying around the mountains. From here, you know that they must be pretty large creatures, probably something like griffins or hippogriffs or something like that sort of a size. And you know that there is a teeming ecosystem, as it were. Nothing anywhere near your vicinity though. Nothing that's going to be a problem. You reach the river. You head inland a little bit more, following the river to the north. With your walking speed, you're making good progress. Eventually you get to where the bridge is, the bridge on the map that says this is the only bridge over to the swamp. You see that it is intact. It is a wooden bridge that is taken some damage. It's a bit rickety. It's not so rickety as to give you major concern crossing it, but you are just remaining aware a little bit as you're crossing it, just to put your weight on your heel and slowly move your feet just to make sure that nothing surprises you. Walking over the bridge, not a problem. You eventually cross over the bridge and onto the other side, and this is where your notes and what you've been told starts to tell you that be on your lookout a little bit more on the north side of the river. You head forwards towards the swamp that you can see on the horizon. You walk for another hour or so, just up and down hills, undulating terrain, constantly paying attention and re-referencing the map that you've got of this area, and it all seems to be completely accurate. And eventually the marshland starts to get a little bit more wet. There's a couple more rivers that you have to cross, but much smaller ones like streams and tributaries and such. And you start to enter into swampland. What do you want to do? Let's update this quest log. We've collected the dry bag, and now we have got to map Drennsall, find out as a side quest sort of thing what happened to Jason. What else is our quest? Have we got any? Is that just those essentially? Let's start looking around, start drawing, start making sketches. Take a good bear perception check. All right, good choice. You stay still at this point. You're like, okay, I think I'm getting into the thick of it. So you stand still. You focus. You plant your feet and you really ground yourself. It's like an instinctive, natural predatory response to just kind of slow right down. You control your own breathing, you control your own heartbeat, and for a few seconds, basically, you're using your predatory patience to take your entire turn, movement, action, bonus action, to just make a single perception check with proficiency and advantage. Oopsie-daisy. So proficiency and advantage will give you a +6 to this roll. And that is a 13 with advantage, +6, 19. With a 19 perception, your ears twitch forwards, your eyes are looking for movement, waiting like a bear waiting in a river for a salmon to swim past. You start to get attuned to the sounds of the swamp. You definitely start to, at this point, hear the croaking of frogs. You're smelling the rotting wood and the damp swamp sort of air, the very moist and humid air. Nothing's jumping out at you as like a problem at this point, no major issues. You can start to see movement. There's a couple of smaller rodents and things that are rustling around in the roots around the trees. Anything in the trees above us, you're looking up, listening out. There are birds swimming, flying through the trees, catching insects that are flying. It seems like there's a teeming ecosystem here. Do we smell arrogance, aka elves? You don't smell any elves. Cautiously continue. Start sketching stuff. Can't smell anything decaying that could indicate a predator or a fight. There's definitely the smell of decay, but not really, not like fresh rotting animal decay, more like plant decay. Okay, start sketching, start doing our job, making a map. So you get out a folding piece of board that can fit nicely into your dry bag. You get a piece of folding board, opens it up with a couple of simple hinges, gives you some nice solid something to press on. You hold that in one hand, kind of like a painter's palette, put a piece of parchment on it and start sketching. Let's roll you a check to see how that goes. Once again, this is going to be Cartographer's tools, and this time it's going to be an intelligence-based thing as you're making, you're doing calculations and you're making note of like where the path is and things like that. Nat 1. A Nat 1 plus your cartography plus your intelligence takes it to a total of 5. That is as little as you can roll on this. As you're taking notes, you're sort of sinking slowly into the swamp from where you were standing. You do have lucky if you want to re-roll that. Thumbs up, thumbs down. You've got four lucky clovers that you can use per day. You've got 4 luck points per day and a hero point once per session. Yes, totally forgot what a map is. Alright, so you use one of your luck points. You tear off the one leaf of the lucky clover that replenishes each morning. Let's re-roll that check. 8 is better than 1. Plus 4 is 12. 12 is above average, not great. You are doing a better job of it. Still 12's not great, but you're doing it. You're feeling better than you were a second before feeling lucky. Pencil broke. You had to use luck to sharpen it. Yeah. You're sketching and sketching the immediate areas, just adding on details to the area you came. You place that down. You get your tool out, and you're starting to check distances for things just to double check. After about 20 minutes, half an hour or so, you think, "Yep, that's good." You put some of that stuff in your bag and continue on. As you continue on into the forest, just mapping and stopping and checking for things, looking for any signs of Jason being here as well. Basically, over this hour, I'm going to roll to see if there's any random encounters of the various things you've been told about in the Drennsall. Okay, and then after about an hour of travelling through this forest, you're mapping stuff out. You get to a point where it's like there's no paths made through the swamp. There's just kind of a little bit of a desire line sort of stuff. You eventually get to a point where you're like, it doesn't really go too much further, and you turn back around to backtrack the way you came, and it's a little bit difficult for you to remember the direction you came. Like you came from this direction, but you couldn't have come through that bush, so you must have come around that bush. But like that's a hill. And there's some like fallen, that's like a thick vegetation of trees. So like, how did you get into this little, and you look around yourself and you're kind of in like a little bowl almost. It's like it goes down a little bit further the way you were going, but it goes into like some pretty thick, deep swamp. And so you're like, well, no further that way. And so you kind of blocked off with a big deep swamp on this side and very thick vegetation on this side, a bit of a scrambly hill up on here, and then like a huge thick bush that's on. And as you're looking around trying to find it, you look back. You're pretty sure that bush is closer now. As you're watching, the leaves and the vines are starting to just kind of, like feet and tentacles, just slowly just creeping forwards, rooting themselves into the ground and pulling the entire massive bush towards you. And as this bush, this mound of vegetation seemingly shambles towards you, that is where we're going to leave episode 2. I'll see you guys in episode 3 for how you deal with this situation. Bye for now.
Friends, fans, and fine folk, don't forget to comment on the video for the algorithm.